It's the worst of the CBC for September 11th, 2019, the show where I watch the CBC so no one ever needs to again because it's that terrible. Okay. Usually I don't do these episodes on Wednesday because I have to prepare for the show later tonight in a couple hours, but today was just so extra specially terrible. So it's the election has been called, and it's been great timing for Justin Trudeau because it takes news away from 9/11 because he's pretty pro, terrorism in most aspects. But the real reason why it looks like he called the election is to cover up his recent developments on the SNC-Lavalin scandal. Now, we're going to have to get into this more tonight, but I watched the CBC for over an hour. Not a single mention of SNC-Lavalin happened. It wasn't even on the Chiron. And what happened is the biggest scandal in Canadian history with this massive obstruction of justice. The Prime Minister is writing private laws for people who give him money to do so and then tries to overthrow the judicial branch to force them to use what he wants. Basically turning Canada into a dictatorship. Now it's found that the RCMP, who is investigating Justin Trudeau, was actually stalled by Trudeau. They're not allowing the RCMP access to witnesses, testimony, their cabinet confidentiality. So now we see why he called an election today, because he knew the Globe and Mail would break this story and they wouldn't mention it. And then finally it was mentioned. It was finally mentioned. I'm like, okay, I don't have to make this video now because they're going to talk about SNC. And what they said is, there was a story that came out last night in the Globe and Mail about SNC, and we'll go into it. It has to do with, we'll let Andrew Scheer talk. Then they cut to a clip of Andrew Scheer being boring, saying, oh, SNC is very bad. They didn't even mention what it was. They didn't even mention that Justin Trudeau has been stalling the RCMP into looking into his... This is a network that ran with Russiagate, even though it's not our country. They ran with the Russian collusion nonsense for months. Months making something out of nothing. And then there's actually something. It's actually corruption. They're actually stalling an investigation into a major corruption scandal. Nope. Not worth our time. Instead, we have to listen to Jagmeet Singh ramble on and on. I will give you this for free. And the problem is this is not for free. This is not for free. And then Rosemary Barton, who was actually on the TV this time, went, oh, what a brilliant case. It's shades of Jack Layton. Oh, shut up. Jack Layton only won a lot of seats in Quebec because he ran around the province dying of cancer. Oh, it was so inspirational. No, Michael Ignatieff was the worst candidate, well, before Hillary Clinton, all these other terrible candidates. He was terrible. And Jack Layton was like, I'm dying. That the Quebec was just like, sacre bleu. And the Bloc was unpopular, so they won by default. And now Jack Layton's this political genius. Oh, for God's sakes. Then I have to watch the Bloc make a speech, and then crazy tree lady gets up there, and we're going to be 100% renewable energy. Painful. But the real reason I'm making this is because the worst story of the day, just on the CBC right there, is they tried to talk about how much better an economic standing Canada is now than 2015. And the way they did is they compared sort of specific economic numbers going into a specific quarter of 2015 opposed to right now. And they did it in a very dishonest way. Now, if you remember Canadian politics in 2015, there was a slight downturn in the election, in the economy, or sort of a moderate downturn that looked like a recession, but it was artificially created by the Saudis. What the Saudis did, and this was more to do with the Americans, but it affects us because Canadian dollar is directly tied to oil, and you have to understand this if you're going to understand how the CBC and the media is going to play the economic numbers in the next election. The Saudis were very, very angry at the Americans, the Canadians, the world for figuring out natural gas. They don't have a lot of natural gas reserves. They have major oil deposits. Qatar has a lot more natural gas. So they wanted to stall American production and sort of hit the American petroleum industries by showing, hey, we have these massive reserves of oil. So if you mess with us, if you screw with us, we can just flood the market with oil. It won't make a difference to us. And it will drive down the price of oil, and that will massively affect your economies. That's what they did. Canada, which is pretty tied to the price of oil, the price of oil dropped from over $100 a barrel to under $50 a barrel. This caused a sort of a moderate downturn in the economy, a bit of unemployment and economic stability. It stabilized right after Trudeau was elected because of the Saudis stopped doing the oil. So I'm trying to hit on the fact that Harper was so bad for the economy. Remember, under Stephen Harper, we had the strongest middle class in world history of any country, any time, anywhere. Canadian middle class under Stephen Harper is the strongest of all time. It's except for those few months where the Saudi ramped up oil production. As soon as they stopped that, the numbers stabilized. So what happened is you had great economic growth. The Saudis released tons of oil. It went down. The Saudis did that, and then they went back to normal production things. It climbed back to where it was. Then Justin Trudeau was still over, and then it slowly declined to where we are now. So and you saw this especially so they showed the price of oil. The most dishonest stat, though, is I talked about GDP growth going into 2015 and 2019. And the GDP growth at this time, right, they're choosing this specific quarter where the Saudis hit our market, we were at 0.9%. That's a terrible number. That's a very bad number. Canada's GDP growth has, over the last year, 2 major quarters in a row, has been growing at 0.1%. That's 0% is 2 quarters is recession. So we're technically in a recession, but not really. But what the number they put on was 1.3% because that was the projected growth by the Bank of Canada, not the actual GDP growth. It's what the Bank of Canada projects to be at the end of the year, not what it actually is. So we have the actual number from the worst quarter of 2015 projected against what the Bank of Canada is speculating to be way above the actual number for 2015. This is dishonest. And they're also talking about unemployment. And the unemployment statistics are completely fabricated in this last month. We had major job growth, but it is not in, it's not real. It's only in 2 provinces. So we have, 81,000 new positions. 96% of those jobs are in Ontario and Quebec. 71% are part-time jobs. And full-time employment actually decreased by 7,500 jobs for those over 25 years old. So the economic numbers from last month, although they're being portrayed and told to you as very positive, they're actually economically very negative. So today's CBC, because it was 100% biased, gets a 10 out of 10 on the Rosemary Barton scale. And because Rosemary Barton was actually on the TV, that increases the Rosemary Bartons by 1. So an 11 out of, you know what? And no one mentions 9/11. So, this is now a 12 out of 10 on the Rosemary Barton scale, which means we need to defund the CBC. We need to, deport all the CBC editors, send them to North Korea, all off to North Korea today. And then all the reporters on the CBC, they can go to Venezuela. Because if they're going to portray those policies as, oh, revolutionary, great policy, go to Venezuela. You all need to go to Venezuela. Rosemary Barton to Venezuela, all of you and your friends. Guys, I'll see you later tonight for just more rambling because, it's going to be a good one.